Hey everyone, hi, welcome back to my channel. We are at the halfway point for the year. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? So, as booktube tradition, it is time to check in about what's been going on, at least in my reading life, as I bite my own tongue. At least what's in my own reading life for the middle of the year. Like, how has my reading been going thus far this year? Is that right? Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm not together. It's okay. It's okay. We're just rolling with it. So if you're new to my channel, then hi, I'm Shelly. I love books and reading, like sort of with a deep passion. And if you also love books, reading, authors, all that kind of thing, and you like to hear someone chatting joyfully about her reading life, then I would encourage you to subscribe, stick around, and without any further rambling on, let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. So I'm going to be using the structure of the mid-year book freakout tag because that is the tag that we all do in order to help us structure this conversation about what's been going on up until this point of the year. And the only thing is that I really dislike about this tag is that we give away our favorite at the beginning. The very first question is, best book you've read this year. And I'm like, why would I give away the best book I read this year right at the beginning of the video? So I'm actually going to be pushing that to the end of the video, like near the end. It's going to be question number 13 rather than question number 1. So yeah, I'm just going to be restructuring it so that it fits my sensibilities. Plus, then I'll get overexcited because I'll be talking about my best book of the year, and we're not going to do that. We're just going to go in with, we're going to go in with the second question first and restructure it to my liking. Okay, so question number 2, best sequel you've read this year, so far this year. I have my books here. My best sequel has to be Payment in Blood by Elizabeth George. I got into reading mysteries this year. What in the world? This is so not like me. I've never been a mystery reader. I didn't even read Nancy Drew or the Boxcar Children, really. I read the first book, the backstory of the Boxcar Children, and then I never went forward with the series because I like character, I like the internal life of a character, and even as a child, you could see that that's what I enjoyed. So, Payment in Blood by Elizabeth George. This is the second book in her Inspector Lynley series. Detective Lynley? I don't even remember. I think it's Inspector Lynley series. In her Lynley series. And I just loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Partly because I haven't read that many sequels. I'm not a big series reader. But there's something about this series. It's literary, it's slow, it's thoughtful and playful, and there's a lot of wonderful characters in the series. And so, I thought, it was just fantastic. And I got to see Elizabeth George, grow as a writer from the first book to the second book. It definitely feels like she knows what she's doing in this book, and it's just more elegantly done than the first. And so yeah, this gets the award for best sequel I read this year. The next question, new release you haven't read but want to. I think it's coming out still. I'm actually not sure. But Tom Lake by Ann Patchett, that's on my mind. If you know too much, if you don't know, I'll just explain. I'm not a diehard new release girly. That's just not really who I am. I have a bunch of books that are unread on my shelves, and so I tend to follow the new release market with an academic interest, an interest in staying in the know, but not with a sort of spendy interest where I'm buying up all of the new releases. So having said that, there's not a new release that has gripped me that I'm like, yes, I want that. It's more of from afar, I'm like, oh, Ann Patchett came out with a new book. That's awesome. There is also, where am I? Oh, what am I thinking? What is her name? Oh, Curtis Settenfield, romantic comedy. That has been an exciting new release that people have been talking about more and more, and it's supposed to be a light summer read that is done really well. And I feel like all of a sudden Curtis Settenfield's romantic comedy has shot up to the top of everybody's lists, and everybody's talking about it. Everybody is in probably like 3 people in the community, but those 3 people have like loudspeakers in my reading heart, and so it feels like everybody is talking about it. But yeah, so that's another release that I am kind of excited about, or I've grown more excited about. And yeah, otherwise, no, there's not been too much out there that I've been like anticipating or that has been released that I haven't read yet. The next question is along these same lines. Most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I don't think I have any. I'm sort of waiting, low key waiting for Antonio Scarlati's next installment. He wrote my favorite book of last year, M, Son of the Century, which I own, but I didn't grab. That was my top read of last year. It was all about how you know, I'm gonna grab it because it's just better this way. I don't get to talk about this book enough, to be honest with you. I gave it the #1 spot for my reading last year, and then it's like I don't really talk about it because it's like when I describe it, I feel as if I am not doing it justice, as much as I just loved this book. And so what this is, it is about Benito Mussolini in his younger years, and how he essentially formed the fascist party in Italy, and who he was inspired by when it came to his political tactics and how he came to power. And it was so well done. It's a huge book. It's like it's over 700 pages. And it was just so well done. It was such an engaging, fascinating, lovely experience, gripping. And as much as I am, like, I love political works of fiction, or even historical fiction. I wouldn't say that I seek those books out, but even for somebody who I don't think is, you know, a truly, I don't want to say, I'm like thinking of the word intelligent, but I'm not 100% drawn to political thrillers. That is not my genre. And for it not being my genre, it was such a pleasurable read. So anyways, anticipated release. I am keeping my eye out for the next book, the next installment in this series, because it's supposed to be a quartet. And so I don't know if it's coming out this year, and considering that it's a translated work from the Italian, I don't know what outlets are following it. So I really have to like keep my eye out for when the next book is coming out, because again, I don't know if like it's going to be covered by the New York Times. It's just one of those releases that is sort of niche. And so I really have to keep my eye out for when this will be released, but I have to do the work rather than letting like the New York Times do it for me. So anyways, there's this. Yes. And that would, I guess that would, in a weird way, that would answer the question of like my most anticipated release. I don't know if it will be this year though, but I'm definitely anticipating the next installment in the Benito Mussolini series by Antonio Scarlatti. Biggest disappointment, I think that would have to go to Joyce Carol Oates' We Were the Mulvaneys. I thought Joyce Carol Oates would be an author for me, and she really wasn't in the least. I actually got rid of all of my Joyce Carol Oates books after reading that. I just didn't like We Were the Mulvaneys at all. And I think the thing that stands out the most for me is the weak, stereotypical female characters, when I feel like she really could have taken one of those characters and made her strong and resilient and brilliant, and it just didn't come together at all for me. And I just think back on that book with disgust. I just really didn't like that book. So yeah, biggest disappointment, so much so that I've like banned the author from my library, from my own home library. Biggest surprise. Okay, biggest surprise has to go to Sophocles. So saying this writer's name is the bane of my existence, because I say Sophocles, but I have an extra syllable in there when I say it like that. So it's Sophocles. Okay, I read the 3 Theban plays, which I had been intending to read for years, and I finally read it. And the thing that is the biggest surprise for me is how much this has stuck with me, and it has stuck with me because of you all. When I made a video about each of the plays, so that if anybody, I mean, partly because I wanted to do it and I wanted to challenge myself to have a conversation about each one of the plays, but then also for posterity. So if you are wanting to read these plays and you're like, what did Shelley think as she was reading them, in case anyone ever in their life has that question, you know, you can go back and watch those videos. Or if you just don't want to feel alone in the reading of these plays and your feelings, then you can go back and I'll keep you company. The past Shelley will keep you company during your reading. So, but the thing is that when I read Oedipus the King, I didn't get it. I was like, what am I missing? And you all came out in the comments of that video and explained to me the obsession the ancient world had about fate, their ideas about fate, and how important the idea of fate was to them. And that really helped shape the way that I thought about these plays, and it transformed the way that I continue to think about them. And so the biggest surprise was that when I read it, I was just like, what is happening? And then you all came out and gave me so much to chew on, so much to consider, and I just was so grateful. And those comments and this play together has continued to shape my thinking. And also, I just want to give a small shout out for Oedipus at Colonus. I thought that there's this, line, time obliterates, and I still think about those 2 words, time obliterates, which I absolutely love. And then Antigone, the very first, first written but last in the cycle, I continue to think about her as a proto-feminist female character that is I just loved it all. I loved it all. Talk about a strong female character, Antigone. Antigone is someone, she's amazing. Okay, so the Sophocles Theban plays, the Oedipus cycle, I continue to just love and think about and consider it even to this day. Favorite author, new or new to you, debut author or new to me. Well, I'm going with 2. I'm going with 2 authors because it's my video on my channel. The first one has to be, her books were sitting on my shelves for years, y'all. Oh my gosh. It's just why did I wait so long? And that would be Donna Tartt, The Goldfinch, which I read first, and The Secret History. I love them both. In terms of fun, I would say The Secret History is just a more fun read. It is a whodunit. I mean, why done it? It's not a whodunit. It is not a whodunit. You know who did it right at the beginning of, who murdered the young man. But you're like, why? So that's what this is about. And this, I think, is a more elegant. The Goldfinch is a more elegant book, for sure. Hands down. It's just slower and more cinematic and has truly the question of the soul of the character is in balance, and I just loved it. So Donna Tartt, now I need to read The Little Friend. I think that's what her third book is. And you know who's due for a new book? Donna Tartt. It's been about 10 years. A new book should be coming out from her. I mean, if we follow her career with any kind of interest and the pattern of when books are released, she is truly due for a new book. So Donna Tartt, if you're watching BookTube, we'd love a new book from you. And if that came out anytime in the near future, I would be ecstatic and I would purchase it immediately and hopefully gobble it up right away. So, Donna Tartt. The other author that I was just so impressed by and that I just loved, and now I want to read everything by her, and it is Mona Awad's Bunny. Oh my gosh. This book, I really loved Bunny by Mona Awad. It is silly and off the rails and satirical and funny in all the best ways. And here's Harry. Hi, Harry. We'll say hello. Hello, boo boo. Mona Awad has a couple of other books out there, and I do want to read them. I mean, she is phenomenal. I mean, just a delight, an absolute delight. Oh, Bunny. I just love this book. I would reread it today if I had the time. But yeah, it's just a fantastic, fantastic book. Okay, on to the next question. Newest fictional crush. Up until a few days ago, I actually didn't have a fictional crush, but there's someone that is just getting me with his charms and his wily nature. And that is Augustus, or Gus, from Lonesome Dove. I'm not yet finished with this. I'm about, I don't know, I'm inching towards the 2/3 of the way done mark. And I'm reading this with Mark at book time with Elvis. And, you know, we're having such a great time with it. And there's something, the character of Gus, he's an older man who can't stop talking and has opinions about everything and just rambles on. But there's something about the way that he thinks and his charm and the way that he treats the women in these books that is very, I don't know, gentlemanly, sort of like surprisingly so. And there's something about, like, when he's in a scene, I'm like, oh, Gus. I'm like, give me a scene with Gus in it, which just feels kind of silly. But I just love him as a character, and I'm so glad to be reading this. It's just such a fun, adventuresome read for me. Newest favorite character. Okay, that has to 100%. It's gonna go to Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. Demon is just, I mean, he's a character with a capital C. There's just so much to love about him. And I finished this, you know, over a month ago. I finished Demon Copperhead over a month ago, and I still think about Demon. He has touched the deepest part of my heart as somebody that I root for, that I want to, like, hug in a very maternal, like, I want to give him this big maternal hug and tell him that, like, he's loved and he's welcome and he's accepted for who he is. And there's just something about him that I absolutely adore. I'm so, so glad that Demon Copperhead is getting the accolades that it has been getting, like, i.e. winning the Pulitzer, winning the Women's Prize. There's just something about him. There's something about who he is and the way that Barbara Kingsolver has crafted him that feels very alive and very real. And, you know, I can't say that for every character in the book, but the way that his viewpoint and the way that he moves through life just reminds me of people that I know, people that I love. And I don't know, I could probably just, like, I could shed a tear now for thinking about him. Oh my goodness. Which actually goes with the next question, which is a book that made you cry. And there was definitely times, I don't really cry. I don't, like, cry at books anymore. There would be, like, times, I remember, like, even, like, 5 years ago, I would sob at books. I would just cry, and I'd be like, it was so beautiful. I just don't do that anymore. I think it maybe growing up, maybe my heart has hardened a tiny bit. But Demon Copperhead, there was times where I felt, like, truly emotional and overwhelmed with emotions, and, like, sort of, like, had to, you know, just I had those moments where I was just feeling, I felt it, you know, I felt it. And so Demon Copperhead, you know, best character, also got me in the feels, okay? It just got me in the feels. Book that made you happy. Okay, the book that made me happy was Daughter of Time by Josephine Tey. Okay, this is, by the description, I would bore you. But basically, it is a historical mystery done in a very unique way. I think it's done in an extremely modern way. And, you know, and what I loved about it was just, I learned so much about Richard III, you know, and King Henry VII, I think. You would think I would remember. But, no, I just love this. I loved this. And I thought it was just so fantastic. It is actually the 5th book in the Inspector Alan Grant series, but it doesn't matter that it's the 5th book. I have not read 1 through 4, and I read number 5, and it was fantastic. And I would encourage, it's just a slim little thing. It's so good. It's such an enjoyable read. Yeah, this is just a book that just gave me so much joy, like, being in it, reading it. I also read this with Mark at Book Time with Elvis. We have a history now of choosing fantastic books, and Harry is, what are you getting into, Harry? Like, I have no idea. Are you eating a bug? I don't know. But anyways, Mark and I have now a standing history of choosing fantastic books. And this was just great. It was great. So yeah, highly, highly recommend. Most beautiful book I acquired this year, and that would be ABC 3D, which is a pop-up book, rethinking the alphabet. I have a whole short video going through all of this, and it is just, it's so cool. This is such a cool book. Sculpturally incredible, just beautiful, really hits my own sensibilities with its simplicity, and just gorgeous structure. And now I'm like, Harry, truly, what are you? Harry's taking over the video. He's like, look, Mom, this video's not about you. This is about me. But I will leave that short linked down below in case you want to see the entire ABC 3D book. And it is done by Marion Battier. I'm not sure. Battier. I am fancy. Anyways, okay, let's go to the next question before I completely lose it. Okay, what books do you need to read before the end of the year? I don't need to read any books before the end of the year. I really dislike this question, and I'm going to swap it out for something else. I'm going to swap it out for a more Shelley question. The question I'm going to ask myself and you all, because I want to know, book that you've learned the most from. The book that has contributed to your knowledge in some way or changed your opinion in some way. And for me, that is Say Nothing by Patrick Radden Keefe. That is a phenomenal book. It is a nonfiction book about the Troubles in Northern Ireland, and it was incredible. I learned so much about the Troubles and why it has been so hush-hush for so many years, and what it was all about, the political and religious drivers behind the Troubles, and I thought it was a phenomenal book. A phenomenal book. I've read Patrick Radden Keefe's Empire of Pain, and I thought Say Nothing was 10 times better. 10 times better. It was just so good. I learned so much from it. And I continue to think about some of the figures in that book today. Particularly Dolores, if you've read the book, the person Dolores, and it was just an incredible read. It was just an incredible read. Okay, so I'm gonna stop there, but yeah, I really don't like the books you need to get to by the end of it. It doesn't speak to my own sensibilities. So yeah, we're gonna go with the book that you've learned the most from, or from which you've learned the most, or the book that has changed your opinion about a topic in some way. Like maybe you already knew a lot about that topic, but instead your opinion has changed because you read that book. For me, I learned the most from Say Nothing by Patrick Radden Keefe. All right, finally, the question you've all been waiting for, the one that I've made you wait to hear the answer to, but as I fling up the book before I actually ask the question, but your favorite book so far this year, and that still goes to Middlemarch by George Eliot. I love this book. I was talking to a stranger, a person that I didn't know, under sort of unusual circumstances, and we got into a conversation about books, and I was able to chat with him like passionately and excitedly about Middlemarch, and he got to share some things that I hadn't really thought about, or I did, but I didn't consider them in that way. And it was just a moment in which I was like, I really like this person. Or like, I look back on that conversation. This is the better way of framing it. Like, I look back on that conversation with deep fondness, because it was just so wonderful to have just a lovely, lively conversation about literature and about my favorite book this year. I love this book. This is just like what literature is all about. For me, I loved George Eliot's writing style. I think about Dorothea and Rosalind. I think about them so often. I just like, talk about a book that can make you cry. Like I could get choked up about this book right now. There are just some moments in here that were just so beautiful, so touching. There was actually, talk about a book that made you cry. I was recounting a scene in the book, and I was telling my husband Ted about it, and I just started like sobbing. Yeah, this book, no, like Demon Copperhead made me like swell with emotion. Like it pulled on my heartstrings. This book made me sob. And I don't think it has that effect on everyone. I really feel like when you love this book, like if you are someone that loves this book, like Kim at Middle of the Book March, when you love this book, you love it with a fiery passion. And I have joined the ranks of those people. I love this book with a fiery passion. And then there are people that like it, and there are people that despise it, like cannot stand it. But I love this book with a fiery passion. And I don't know, it was just such a beautiful and wonderful and incredible reading experience. And it continues, as you can probably tell, it continues to stay with me. It is the book that lights my fire, truly. And I'm so glad that I read it. So yeah, best book this year, Middlemarch. Middlemarch by George Eliot, hands down, 100%. I love this book. All right, and then finally, we're gonna talk about creators I have been loving. So it has to go to Jess at Stalking Kafka. I have just been adoring her channel. And also, if I mention you, like, you're tagged, but if you're watching this and you want to be tagged by somebody, just consider yourself tagged by me, okay? So Jess at Stalking Kafka, Kim at Middle of the Book March, she continues to put out videos about interesting topics, and she just has this vibe that she's like hanging out with you, talking about what she wants to talk about. And of course, what she wants to talk about is bookish things, which I love about her. Jennifer Brooks, whenever a new video pops up from her, I'm always like, yes. I was telling my husband about Jennifer today because I was like, she just loves her reading life. And what's so funny is that when you love your reading life, a lot of times there's just no rhyme or reason to it. Like, she'll just be talking all of a sudden about like the ancients. She'll be like, I wanted to read this ancient and it was so good. And then she'll turn around and talk about like a YA love story that she fell hard for. And I'm like, yes, girl, yes. Like, just talking about like the joy she has and the passion that she has for what she's reading. It gets me. Like, it makes me want to read every single thing that she ever talks about. I'm going to the library today, and that's a dangerous feeling. If I've just watched a Jennifer Brooks video, it's a dangerous thing for me to visit the library shortly after. I have to mention Sandy at the channel Miss Reads a Lot. She's a dear friend. I literally talk to her every single day. And I love that she so consistently puts out videos towards this massive project that she's doing to read the 1001 books you must read before you die. And she's just been such a pleasure to watch throughout this process. And I feel really honored to call her my friend. Sandy, I just adore her. And then I think I'm just gonna mention, man, there's so many people. Like, I feel like I'm always missing out on certain folks whenever I do something like this, which it makes me feel bad because I like to talk about everybody. But I'm gonna go through, I think, 5 more people. I'll mention them kind of quickly. Dia at Novel Idea, she reads so much. And her thing is fantasy. When she loves something, she's got this like calm and beautiful presence about her, but when she loves something, it makes me want to read it as well. And she does such a good job articulating why she loved it, you know? And I'm like, yes. The women from the plot along, so it would be Charlie at Charlie Brooks, Alice and the Giant Bookshelf, and Gemma of Books. Those 3 ladies have just been fantastic. Like, I love them together. I love their chats. I love the plot along. I loved what they were doing. And individually, their channels are incredible. And together, their project was fantastic. And I was just in awe of how well they kept up and they were committed to the Women's Prize. I mean, it was so cool to watch the project unfold. And of course, you know, here I am cheering them on from my corner of the internet because I just thought what they were doing was just amazing. And just to follow that prize so closely was so cool. And then finally, Scott at Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, my nemesis, like my book opposite. We truly have opposite opinions on so many things, except for nonfiction and classics, typically. If anything else, anything outside of those 2 categories, he and I will just we are pulled apart as complete and polar opposites. And there's something joyful about that, because I'm like, oh, I didn't like that book, I bet Scott will love it. And it's just really fun to have someone who has that playfulness with you. Of course, I wish Frasier came back with videos, and we still do our tops and flops, and a shout out moment wouldn't be the same without Mr. Frasier. But yeah, so, you know, Scott, Frasier, the Plot Along Women, and all of the other people that I've mentioned, I will put linked down below, you know. Anyhow, but that's it. So, yeah, I'm gonna, and you are all tagged to do this. If I mention you, or if you're just watching and you want to be tagged by somebody, you're tagged. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here and spending this time with me. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all in my next one. Bye.